Hello, everyone. It is so good to be back. It has been about a month since I made my last video. By far the longest I've gone on this channel without making a video. So it's good to be back, but it was a necessary rest and recoup time. This video, I'm going to try to keep as short as possible, but there's so much I want to cover. So I'm going to keep some of it vague. First, I really want to just basically talk a little bit about, where I've been, what I've been up to, what I've been thinking about, and why I've been silent. Then I want to get into some of the major stuff that's gone on since I've been silent that I would like to throw my 2 cents into. And then also I want to get into where the channel is going. So I hope you'll stick around, grab a cup of tea, cup of coffee, brandy, rye, whatever floats your boat, and we will catch up.
When I was low, I was feeling kind of ranty, so I put on my big girl panties and started up a YouTube channel with nothing but soul.
All right, so first and foremost, why have I been gone for so long? Well, basically, the short answer is my health. The long answer is a whole bunch more than my health, which is really holistic health and taking care of spiritual, mental, emotional, as well as the physical. But really, for the most part, I got run down from the very grueling PPC, People's Party of Canada campaign for the 2019 Canadian federal election. Really, really proud of that campaign. I'm very, very happy I did it. No regrets whatsoever. But definitely it runs a person a bit ragged. I mean, it runs a healthy person ragged, let alone someone that has some health limitations. So definitely was feeling that. As many of you know, I got smoked with some pretty rank bronchitis about 2 weeks before the election. And that took me down a bit, although I kept pushing through as I had to. We were right at the finish line. But pushing through that has its consequences. And that really did sort of leave me in a bit of a state after where I was quite run down and prone to other issues. And I've had some major flare-ups with my health stuff and have really just been going through a lot of issues. So I've been struggling. And when I struggle physically like that, and I get kind of trapped in my body, as you might say, and I'm stuck at home and I'm not feeling particularly useful, I'm not making money, these are the times when I'm very, very prone to start to feel down. And suffice it to say that I was getting really down in parts very similar to where I was a couple of years ago. If you're not familiar with me and my story and my channel, lots of videos at the beginning. If you're interested, please, like, subscribe, check it out, all of that jazz. But of course, those of you who know me a little more recognize that a couple of years ago, I, really had kind of hit a rock bottom before I started this channel because of the amount of suffering and pain and feeling, to be honest, like a bit of a burden to the people that I love, which is a terrible, terrible feeling. And just not knowing where things were going to go, I kind of lost hope, and to find my faith again. And of course, Jordan Peterson and philosophically changing a lot of my ideals, how I see the world, which changed me politically, and starting this channel. So it's been quite a journey. And then to get smoked like this with a recurrence of so much health stuff at once. And it was sort of one thing after another. And to really have to see how I'm going to handle that now. My faith has been so strong, and I came through this so much better because I am in a completely different place. My heart has changed. And that's something that I think has been extraordinary this past month, which I won't get into a lot in this particular video, but it will be shifting the direction of my channel. And that is just the spiritual growth that I've had. It's just been incredible. There'll be lots of stuff that I'm sharing in the future. And I know that's going to change the demographic of my channel, and it might lose me some subscribers. And it's okay. That's okay. I have to move forward in the way that I believe is right. So a lot of it still has to do with the culture war and politics. It's all connected. And I've been really, really diving into some stuff and learning about how that connects. And the new age, which is going to be a huge focus, and all of that, and how it connects into politics and leftism and all the stuff that I was talking about before. So I'm really excited to kind of move forward with this. And a lot of that happened as a result of me taking this time that I needed. Right now, I want to get into really quickly a few of the main issues that are going on in the world today. So to start with, for what's going on in the world, I'll start with the PPC only because I was just talking about it. I'm sure many of you have heard that Mr. Warren Kinsella has, basically been shown on audio record instructing people to, quote, let the hatred you have for Maxime Bernier wash over you like a purifying force. Or at least that's how I read it, because that's psychotic. And the entire recording is just appalling. And there's all this stuff that's come out now. And because the election's over, it seems like nobody cares. The mainstream media certainly doesn't. But it is good to know that so much of what we said was happening actually was happening. There was an entire smear campaign against us. And it's really unfortunate how corrupt this is. And there does seem to be a direct connection to the Conservative Party of Canada. So I'm hoping that more and more investigations will come out. So that's one major thing. The next major thing, Don Cherry. Whoa, Don Cherry, fired, gone, right? So there was that whole thing. And then right after that, that Jess Allen lady, whoever she, I'd never heard of her before. I didn't even know that show existed. But she went on and talked about, how horrible he was and how misogynistic he was and all the ists. And then how, young white, hockey players are such bullies and all of that. So that was just one massive outrage cycle. And actually that pulled me out of Twitter. I went off Twitter because I could no longer handle being told what to be mad about and knowing so many opinions of everyone. And it was just, I just couldn't do it. Honestly, it took days for me to just slow my brain back down to a normal pace in a normal way where I'm not being told what to learn, what to be mad about, what to pay attention to. Instead, I seek out the news. If I don't just go into whatever outrage cycle is next. But the Don Cherry thing did make me very upset that they just canned him on Remembrance Day. I thought that was sick. I was never a fan of Don Cherry, but I am now, only because I'm happy that he didn't apologize for something that he didn't feel that he needed to be sorry for. I have no problem with apologizing if you're actually sorry, but you never ever apologize to the mob. You never ever give into the mob. And I'm glad that he didn't. But it's really sad to see where Canada has gone and that we are so scared of being offended. Like, what's happened to this country? It's sad to me that basically took him down after 38 years, and that all the great things he did just didn't matter. It was just the words and the interpretation, and that's it. And that's all that matters. So very good example of cancel culture, very good example of outrage culture and outrage cycles. The Jess Allen thing was gross. I have two white, blonde-haired, blue-eyed nephews in hockey. I think one now doesn't play anymore, but the one is just in love with the game, loves the sport, fantastic little player, good kid too, heart of gold. And I'm sorry if there's too many white people in hockey. It's a sport that generally is played in northern areas where it's quite cold because of the ice and everything. And sometimes people are Caucasian. I'm so sorry. I didn't realize it was such a big deal. But now, take that one step further. And a few days ago, Ron MacLean is out saying that he recognizes his white privilege and so on and so forth. So he's just been completely suckered into all this garbage. And it's really sad because they're trying to drag hockey into this now and say it's racist and sexist and that we need more representation of different races and sexes. And maybe we do, but I don't see why this is the issue. It just seems like they're always going after something, and it's always something that's beloved. So I'm not normally a hockey fan, but I recognize the role it has in Canada culturally. I also recognize when it comes to young kids, first of all, it's really actually quite representative of most communities. The communities that I've seen my nephews play in, the amount of, other races is basically proportionate to the amount of other races seen in that overall population. And if it's not, it's probably because people from, say, I don't know, the Philippines maybe aren't as into hockey because maybe they don't have as many hockey rinks in the Philippines. I don't know. Don't quote me on that. Maybe they have hockey rinks all over the place. Maybe they're the hockey rink capital of the world, but I'm going to guess that they're not. Probably other countries that tend to have us horrible white people as the majority is where hockey generally is played. But I digress. Let's get on to the next, lest I be sucked into the outrage cycle. Ooh, what's on the next on the list? Terrorist attacks. Yes, the never-ending amount of terrorist attacks that seem to be going on. Massive terrorist attack issue in London, of course, had to do with the early release of someone. 2 people were killed. Pretty awful. Pretty awful. We also have major issues going on in Sweden, too many to mention. And of course, the same old sort of tropes are being thrown out from politicians to make sure that everybody doesn't get mad about multiculturalism and diversity, because if you say one thing, then you're a terrible, terrible person. But that's nothing new. Little story from my neck of the woods that most of you haven't heard of. Another fun sex offender being released into the public when they are not ready because they have not shown remorse. They don't seem to be progressing. They seem to be regressing. They have high risks of reoffending and are dangerous. And then the police says, hey, just so you know, Regina, or wherever the place is, public service announcement, we're going to throw this guy your way. Have fun with your daughters. He doesn't have remorse. He's really awful. He continually rapes people while he's on parole. We think he's probably going to do it again, but we're not going to keep him in prison. We're going to let him go, and he's your problem. But if you have any concerns, please call this phone number. Yeah, there's some concerns. Probably can't be resolved over a phone call. We're not encouraging vigilante justice, by the way. We just have to let you know what neighborhood he's in. Well, okay, but maybe don't. I'm going to go to the next bullet point because this one always gets me mad, and the feminists should be so furious about this stuff, but they don't seem to say a bloody word. It's all about men in hockey. Like, that's the problem. Let's see here. Never-ending, continual climate change stuff being shoved down our throats at all times to make sure we're terrified that we're going to die and are making sure to open our pockets as willingly as possible for carbon taxes and other wealth distribution schemes. I don't know if you've noticed, but the amount of fire imagery in these news articles is outstanding. There is fire and people burning, visually it's just trees burning, but you're like, oh God, we're all gonna die. That's what they're doing over and over again. So that's been fun to watch. I want to mention another person I've been listening to recently, because there is always the perpetual sort of LGBTQ activism issues that arise with people that are more radical in their ideology, trying to push things on others. That includes, of course, the trans agenda with children and so on, which I speak against. Our own wonderful Jonathan Yaniv is back, complaining now that he can't go to a gynecologist and they refused to see him. But as someone who has gone to a lot of gynecologists, it's not really fun. And if you want to see one when you don't even have the parts, that probably means there's something wrong in this part of your body, which requires a different specialist. But on the trans note, I want to introduce you to a gal named Posie Parker. Her name is actually Kelly. I'm hoping to have her on my channel in the new year. I'm going to reach out in January, but she is quite a firecracker. She might be a bit of a feminist. I'm not sure if she considers herself a feminist, but she does speak up about women's rights as it pertains to the trans stuff, in particular women's spaces. She's very, very bothered by people that are not understanding the need for women's spaces. So this whole, if you identify as a woman, you can go to women's bathrooms. If you identify as a woman, you can go into women's prisons, these sorts of things. It really bothers her, and she speaks against it. She was the one, if you know of this story in England, that put up the controversial billboard of the definition of woman, adult female, basically adult human female, and that has caused nothing but controversy and outrage. So of course that's been interesting to watch. I've really been enjoying her perspective on things, so I want to recommend her. I'll leave a link in the description for her channel also. And let's see, the new ministries in Canada. So there's some fun new ministries, but the one I really want to point out is the Ministry of Middle Class Prosperity. Sounds a little creepy, doesn't it? Especially since that's sort of supposed to be just the result of all the other good policies. They're not good policies. I'm being facetious. But that's technically what we're aiming for, I suppose. So now we have a minister of that department. I don't really know what else to say about that. Trudeau picked his cabinet. Everything's much the same we suspected it would be, except for they made Chrystia Freeland the minister that's going to be handling all of the major issues we have between our provincial governments and our federal governments. So that should be interesting, because there's no conflicts going on in Canada. Like, there's no major issues with Western separation or issues with alienation or anything like that, right? I mean, I think everything's pretty kosher, is it not? I think that's everything on my list. By no means does that cover everything that has been going on in our country. By no means does that cover everything that's been going on in the world. There's no shortage. I don't even know where to begin, but but I think I did okay. I think I hit the ones that have been burning a hole into my brain for the last few weeks, and some of them more recently. So very lastly, third kind of bullet point, if we're going Dennis Prager fireside chat style, is basically just the direction of my channel. So from here forward, my channel will revolve around culture. It will revolve around politics. I will do commentary, lots of music. There's going to be lots of music. I'd like to do some parodies. I'd like to team up with Greg Wycliffe, who's fantastic. I'll leave a link for him in the description below. He does fantastic work. And there will be a lot of interviews. I really want to get more interviews, just discussing stuff with interesting people. So I want my channel to be very much focusing on that. But ultimately, the focus and the impetus is shifting slightly. If you recall a video a while back called Christchurch, My Father, and Finding Purpose, it was when my dad was first diagnosed with acute leukemia back in February or March. And I didn't know what was going to happen. And the Christchurch mosque shooting had just happened. And I just had such a heavy heart, and I wanted to focus my channel a bit on persecuted Christians and where that's going in the world. And I haven't done as much with that. And part of that is because, you know, the campaign took me away, and then social media does carry you down a current of outrage for whatever its means are, whatever everyone else is mad about. And that's not an issue that gets focused on. But I think it's still going to be a big thing for my channel, just maybe not in the way that I had envisioned it, very much in the way of fighting against the New Age. And if you want to know more about what the New Age is, there will be more videos to come. But I have learned a lot this last month about how so much of this stuff ties in, and it's really going to be interesting to share that all with you. So a big part of my channel will be to battle that, essentially, and it's gonna step on some toes, and I might lose some friends, and I might lose some subs, and it's all okay. If any of those things happen, it's all okay, because I'm pretty sure about all this stuff. I spent a lot of years and a lot of money wasted, and I damaged myself in a lot of ways because of this stuff. And I want to save other people from that deception, because it's deception. And a lot of it does really tie into politics, leftism in particular. So I will leave it there. My faith is rocking my world right now, and I want to share it. And the cool part about it is so much of this stuff biblically, it could all be reconciled and fitted in with the stuff happening nationally and internationally as well. So I will not be another month until my next video. It will be much sooner than that. Thank you guys for sticking around. This was a long video. I hope you're all doing really well. Please leave me a message in the comment section. Please know I read every single comment, every single video. And to end off with my usual phrase, be good to each other, but not because the government tells you to. Good night, guys.